Can I get a small coffee? What's the word for small? A tall coffee with cream, no sugar, please.
Is that all?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I decided to make a film about class differences in Rhode Island. What separates the working class from the middle class? Is it the type of neighborhood each lives in? Is it the schools? The grocery stores? Do the working class or underclass aspire to move up? And how does a move up in economic class affect one's working class sensibilities? In other words, can you become middle class and still keep it real? I was born and raised in Providence in the Mount Pleasant section of the city. My neighborhood has changed a little from 30 years ago, but the library looks the same. Blessed Sacrament Church does too. It wasn't until I went to classical that I realized there were kids in Providence who were different than me, who came from families with lots more money and who had lots more opportunities, as we like to say now. I asked two friends, Jorge Elorza and Carrie Heffernan, to describe their working class childhoods and if they thought of themselves as middle class now. At George West Middle School, we had a motto, onward and upward. How did Jorge and Carrie do it? And is life really better on the other side? Jorge Elorza is an assistant law professor at Roger Williams University School of Law. He grew up in Oneyville.
My teaching schedule consists of property law, civil rights law, and also housing law and policy. And my scholarship consists of a focus on race studies and also housing studies.
Carrie Heffernan is the associate director of the Swearer Center for Public Service at Brown University.
I oversee fellowships that are public service in nature, and I work with faculty who are interested in integrating community or public work into their courses.
Well, my family originally is from Guatemala. They came here in 1975, and I was born a year after that. I've always attended public school, starting with Head Start. I started Head Start when I was 3 years old and through classical high school.
I was raised in a rural part of Florida, Central Florida. Both my parents were New Yorkers who had been teenagers during the Depression, and they'd both come from families of means and lost everything in the Depression.
A funny thing is that I was a very mediocre student in high school, in fact, less than mediocre. I applied to a few places for college as a senior, and I got rejected everywhere I applied. But I ended up going to the Community College of Rhode Island for a year. And after that year, I transferred to the University of Rhode Island through their talent development program.
Nobody in my peer group was going to go to college. Nobody did. They were all leaving high school to go to work. The few kids who did would go to community college, and there was only like 4 kids from my graduating class that went to college, a 4-year college. And I went because I was recruited athletically. I was recruited for an athletic scholarship.
I wish I could buy me a spaceship and fly.
I was always afraid of entering the real world because you should know about the idea of the real world that I had in my mind. The real world meant working in one of these mills and one of these factories. I had visited my parents' workplace, and it wasn't at all pretty. You stand all day, it's noisy, it's dirty, and that's definitely not something that you look forward to when you're a young adult.
I was able to weasel, and I realize now, at great financial hardship to my parents, a semester in Italy, and it really changed my life. Because I'd been in Orlando. A huge trip was the track team got to go to Atlanta. And for me, that was like, it didn't get any more cosmopolitan than like driving in a van through Atlanta. Not that we ever went to anything other than the damn track, but my experiences actually with cultural institutions was totally limited to like third-party conversations. So going to Italy and spending a semester, and I was an art history major at the time, was just it just blew my world apart in a way that I will always be grateful for.
You know, I chose accounting as a major because I felt it would give me a good job. Not necessarily because I wanted to be an accountant, not necessarily because I knew an accountant before and they urged me to go into it. I really had no idea what I was getting into. You know, but I had a vision of success at the time that consisted of, you know, wearing a fancy suit, walking into a tall building with a briefcase or with a laptop or something like that. And that's what I pursued when I was in college. You know, it was very facile and very simple conception of success at the time.
My mom's a really wonderful person, and I think she was trapped in her mother's own expectations. I mean, she came from a particular world where women had very few options, and then enduring the Depression, knowing that it was simply a matter of survival, and she knew many people that did not survive that. Because who cares about education was always my mom's thing. It doesn't matter if you have no social position, and that's all university provides you with as a woman. As a male, it provides you with a profession. As a woman, it provides you with the social position so somebody would marry you. You know, my sister's whole lesson from our family was be economically independent. And my sister went and carved a life for herself that was all around her economic independence. And she still feels very strongly about that, even though she's married, she and her husband. So my sister, we both, I think, went the opposite way. The more my mother pushed us to understand our social position, the more my sister and I got the message, you can't rely on anybody, you gotta do it yourself kind of thing.